Russia and NATO are carrying out parallel military drills in Eastern Europe. Russia's war games are going on in the country's westernmost Kaliningrad province near the borders with Poland and Lithuania. Thousands of Russian air and naval forces as well as paratroopers are taking part in the military maneuvers. The Kremlin is using fighter jets, strike helicopters and long-range bombers. In the meantime, NATO's drills, dubbed Sabre Strike 2014 and Baltops 2014, are scheduled to continue for 2 weeks in the Baltic region. The US has sent 2 nuclear-capable B-2 bombers to the region. Russia has warned against NATO's military build-up near its borders, as well as the alliance's expansion towards Eastern Europe. Mr. Bill Jones with the Executive Intelligence Review is with us now live from Leesburg. Welcome to the programme, Mr. Jones. What kind of message do you think both sides are sending to each other? Do you see this as a threatening message?
Oh, absolutely. I think if the directionality is not changed, we could very well be in a pre-war situation. It's not the maneuvers per se, but it's the ambiance, the environment around it. The General Staff just had a major conference in Moscow where the issue was brought up about the so-called colored revolutions, and they have simply drawn the conclusions that those colored revolutions are really aimed against them to surround and to undermine Russia itself, and therefore defensive measures are required. When you see that, you see these very clear statements and the increasing NATO involvement close to the borders of Russia. Russia is taking a military response to this, and as a nation intent on defending its own sovereignty, they have every right to do that. But this can lead to unforeseen consequences. If there is an incident, if something happens, this becomes a very dicey situation indeed.
Right, and all this, of course, developing as a result of the crisis in Ukraine. But there are mixed responses or mixed reactions coming, because from the one side we see, for instance, Germany or Poland saying that they welcome the fact that Russia has recognized Mr. Poroshenko as Ukraine's new president, and Russia saying it is willing to work with Mr. Poroshenko. The other side, Mr. Poroshenko himself saying that on the Crimea issue he's very firm and he believes it's part of Ukrainian territory. So it's not clear whether this issue is, at the end of the day, going to be resolved peacefully or not, is it?
It's very unclear. There are indications that the parties themselves realize the dangerous course that they're on at this point. However, there is such an intent on the part of the EU and the United States to try and teach Russia a lesson that it's going a little further than people would think. And it would have been worse, of course, had not Germany, Ms. Merkel, who understands Russia and Putin probably better than any other politician, are trying to put it on a different trajectory. And hopefully this will succeed. And the signs coming from Ukraine, from the new president, also indicate that he understands that there is a dangerous situation if relations with Russia are not reestablished. And of course, all the propaganda has been about how President Putin wants to occupy Ukraine. All of this nonsense has created a climate in which many people have had a difficulty in creating diplomatic rapport with the Russian government, and we should be thankful to Mrs. Merkel and to other people in Germany and elsewhere who understand that that's the only way out of this dilemma, is to discuss a solution to the situation in Ukraine.
So, you know, one question here is, however, who should be taking that step toward a resolution of this conflict? Is it Russia that has to take a step here? Is it the US? Is it NATO? Which side is responsible?
Well, I think the U.S. and NATO have got to allow the particular feelers which are out now in terms of negotiations between Ukraine and Russia to continue, and not to put up any roadblocks in that, because I think if the two parties can get together without this outside influence, things could very much be resolved. Russia and Ukraine have a long-standing, centuries-long relationship, and that's not to be ignored. but the pushing from the outside, the senators going in to Ukraine and and the U.S. State Department, no less, going into Ukraine to foment the color revolutions, and now most recently the Senate delegation going to Bulgaria to stop the Russian-supported South Stream gas program. That's internal interference in the internal affairs of other countries, and it's an interference that can lead to a conflict. So that in terms of stepping down, I think NATO and the United States have got to back off a little bit now that it's clearly indicated from the Russian leadership and also now from the new Ukrainian leadership that they would like to discuss this, that these discussions must go forward and shouldn't be interfered with by any kind of nonsense coming from the Western powers or from NATO.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bill Jones with the Executive Intelligence Review with us there from Leesburg.